Today, this is our topic of discussion, runtime polymorphism in Java. Also, this technique is known as dynamic method dispatch. It's a special technique that we are going to study. Now, first I will tell you one very simple point. That is, whenever we have this kind of block diagram, it means it's a single inheritance, one superclass and one subclass. But now try to consider this one. So whenever we have this kind of architecture, this is known as hierarchical inheritance. Now, this hierarchical inheritance is not very easy to understand. But why we are learning this? Try to understand. Whenever you have the concept of runtime polymorphism or dynamic method dispatch, then first point you have to remember that we have to use hierarchical inheritance. So this is the first point you have to remember. Without this hierarchical inheritance, you will not be able to prove runtime polymorphism. So this is your first point. But how to implement the concept of hierarchical inheritance? First, I am showing you a simple example, then I will give you the concept of runtime polymorphism. So now I am going to represent this block diagram. So this is a class A. So I will write class A, then code. Then this is a class B. So class B is extending class A. So I will write class B extends class A. Done. Then class C also extends class A. So I will write class C extends class A. So this is the first concept. Now here the first question is why this inheritance is not so easy to understand, because whenever I write the main class, the first question come in your mind, object of which subclass to create, because according to the inheritance we always prefer to write object of the subclass. See, just make a note, in case of hierarchical inheritance, both the object exist at the same level. So as a result, we have to create object of both the classes. And another reason is this classes are not connected. So the second point is, in case of hierarchical inheritance, you have to create object of all the subclasses. If you have three subclasses, then you have to create all the object of the subclasses. Now you have another question, the third point. In case of hierarchical inheritance, to call the superclasses method, which object to use? See, here the answer is you can use any object, because ob1.m can call the method of the superclass, ob2.m can also call the method of the superclass. So you can use any object to access the superclasses variable and method. But the only thing you have to keep in mind that always in case of hierarchical inheritance, first count how many subclasses you have. The number of subclasses will be equal to the number of objects created. So this thing you have to remember. Now I will try to explain the concept of runtime polymorphism in the context of hierarchical inheritance. Now say I have one superclass A1 and I have one subclass B1. Again, I have another subclass C1. Now I am talking about runtime polymorphism, means all the classes should have the same method name. So now what do you mean by runtime polymorphism? That is, whenever we have hierarchical inheritance, and all the classes, superclass and subclass, will have the same method name. So at this point of time, it will result in runtime polymorphism. And to solve this problem means it's a kind of overriding, because subclass and superclass is having the same method name. So we know that what is the problem. The problem is only the output of the subclass method will be visible. The output of the superclasses method will be hidden. So this is the problem. So this is a kind of overriding. But how to solve it? This kind of solution is known as dynamic method dispatch. Now pay attention into this. This is a very critical, but it's a very good example you have to keep in mind. And this technique is only mentioned in the Harvard Shield book. Nowhere else you will get this one. See, we have one superclass A1. Within this superclass, say I have one method. This one, right? And here say. Now say I have one subclass B1 that is extending A1. So within this subclass, I also have the same method M1, but it is inside B1. Now I have say another class hierarchical inheritance C1, which also extending A1. So B1 is extending A1 and C1 is also extending A1. So definitely it's a hierarchical inheritance. So here also I will define the same method, but I will write inside C1. So the problem of overriding is created. So M1 is the overridden methods. Now, since I am talking about hierarchical inheritance, so what I will do? I will create according to the rule number 1 object of B1 and object of C1. We have to create it. So this is OB1 and say this is OB2. So hierarchical inheritance is created. Now to call the superclasses method, I can use any object. So I'm just using OB1 and just I'm calling M1. And using OB2, I am again calling M1. Now let's see what will happen. See, inside B1 and inside C1, this one is hidden. The output of A1, that is inside A1, is not visible. It means overriding occurs. So the problem is created, right? I think up to this point it is clear. What I am doing, I am creating hierarchical inheritance first. Then I am creating method overriding. Then I am showing that method overriding appears or not. Yes, because according to method overriding, only the subclasses methods output will be visible and the output of the superclasses method will not be visible. So here the same thing happens, right? So overriding appears. So it's a classical example of overriding because method names are same, parameter signatures are same, Return types are also same, and all the methods resides in three different classes. Now, how to solve this problem? See, now you can tell me that, okay, ma'am, use super keyword, you can solve it. Definitely, I can solve this problem using super keyword. But Harvard Shell has proposed a new technique which is known as dynamic method dispatch to specifically solve this kind of overriding. Means the overriding that appears in case of hierarchical inheritance. Now, what concept Harvard Shield has used? Now I will tell you one beautiful concept. So how to create object in Java, I have explained this syntax several times. Now I will give you one idea. That is, whenever we are using only this part, that is the class name and the object name, so at this point of time, this is not an object. It is known as reference. Reference means once memory space is created for this OB, but inside this OB we have nothing, we have null. So now Harvard Shield does what? It just created an object reference. So now try to understand what is dynamic method dispatch. The first point you have to remember, in dynamic method dispatch, it is a solution. Solution of what? Solution of method overriding. But method overriding in which case? In case of hierarchical inheritance. This thing you have to keep in mind. So as a solution, what you have to do? You have to follow some step. First step, you have to create an object reference. Now you can ask me one question. Okay, we have to create object reference. Fine. Now in case of hierarchical inheritance, we have three classes. So object reference of which class should we create? All the classes? No. So the second law is you have to create object reference of the independent class. Independent class means the class which is not connected with any other class. So in one word, we have to create object reference of the superclass. So this is the first point you have to keep in mind. Now Harvard Shield proposed the second law. What is that second law? Now you have to create object of every class. Now you can ask me one question. Object of every class means what? Object of every subclass? Because yes, in hierarchical inheritance we have to create object of the subclass. No, Harvard Shield has proposed that now we have to create object of all the existing classes. Means superclass as well as subclass. Now you can ask me one question, why should we do that? Because in the beginning of the class I have proposed that in some of the cases in inheritance we have to create object of the superclass also, though we know that that object will take some more memory. But here the same thing is applied. So here the second point is in dynamic method dispatch also we have to create object of the superclass. Okay. Now what is the third law? Then the third law is use this object reference to hold the objects, and then you can implement the concept of dynamic method dispatch. So it is very confusing. So now let me write the code one by one. Please make a note. So first what we have to do, say we have problem of method overriding like this. Now focus on the main class part. So this part is same as previous code. No need to focus on that. Now in the main class what we have to do, see, according to the Harvard Shield, first create object reference of the independent class. Okay, who is the independent class? A1. Here A1 is the independent class because A1 is the superclass. Okay. So how to create object reference? Just write the class name and then the object name. So here R is the object reference because inside R we have null. Done. Then according to rule number 2, you have to create object of all the existing classes. Object of B1, object of C1, and also you have to create object of superclass also. Okay, created. This is your rule number 2. So object of all the classes created. Now what is rule number 3? Now in rule number 3, Herbert Schill stated that use this object reference, that is R. Why I am using it? In order to assign object inside this reference. So what I can do, I can pick any object. Say I am picking OB1. So I'm just writing OB1. It means I am assigning OB1 into R. See what will happen. Now if I write R dot M1, then definitely it will understand, okay, R is holding OB1. Okay, OB1 is the object of B1. Fine. Means here M1 means basically I am calling M1 inside B1. So here my point is, since all the methods are having same name, which method to call when, it is controlled by the reference variable. I'm giving you another example. Say I want to call the method inside the C1 class. So what I will do? I will just write R is equal to object of C1, this one. It means R is now pointing to object 2. Now if I write R dot M1, it will understand, okay, recently R is pointing to OB2. OB2 is an object of C1. It means here M1 means M1 inside C1. Fine. So it will call the method. Similarly, I can write R is equal to say OB because it is now pointing to the object of class A1, and then if I write R dot M1, it will understand that, okay, I am talking about M1 inside class A1 as it is holding object of A1. Let's see what will happen. Yes, it is solving. Output of all the methods are visible. It means the problem of method overriding is solved. Now see the order inside B1, inside C1 and inside A1. So first we have assigned R equal to OB1. OB1 is the object of B1. That's why the output of the B1's methods is visible. Then R equal to OB2. OB2 is the object of C1. So that's why the output of C1's method is visible, and then finally the output of A1's method is visible. So why it is dynamic method dispatch? See, you can change this order, right? So there is no restriction that you have to call the superclasses method output first, then subclasses method outputs. No, you can call any method any point of time according to your requirement. It may happen that you don't need this, so don't call this. So dynamically you can change your requirement and you can call those methods. Whichever method you need, you just call them using the reference. But why it is runtime polymorphism? See, which method to call when, it is decided by this reference variable. And reference variable is something which has nothing inside it, means which is not occupying any memory. So as a result, which method to call when, it is decided at the runtime, not at the compile time. So whatever decision is taken over here with the help of reference variable, it is totally performed on runtime. So that's why solving the problem of method overriding in case of hierarchical inheritance using reference variable is known as dynamic method dispatch, and it is a classical example of runtime polymorphism. So method overriding in single inheritance, method overloading is an example of compile time polymorphism. However, method overriding in hierarchical inheritance, it is runtime polymorphism. Whenever you are using super keyword over here, it will become again compile time polymorphism, right? So you can definitely use super keyword, but this is a special case you have to keep in mind. But tell me one thing, can I use this object reference concept to solve method overriding in case of single inheritance? See, try to understand. Dynamic method dispatch is preferable over hierarchical inheritance, fine. But whenever you are trying to solve the problem of method overriding with object reference, then it is runtime polymorphism. And whenever you are solving the problem of method overriding with super keyword, it is compile time polymorphism. So whenever you are using object reference, keep in mind it is dynamic method dispatch. But preferably, dynamic method dispatch is depicted over hierarchical inheritance. That's why whenever we are talking about runtime polymorphism, always we talked about hierarchical inheritance and solving it with the problem of object reference. So the final conclusion is achieved, that is polymorphism. We have two kinds of polymorphism: compile time and runtime. I think now you know the definition, using super keyword and using object reference. The classical example of runtime polymorphism is dynamic method dispatch. And here two example: method and constructor overloading, both comes under compile time polymorphism. Also method overriding in case of single inheritance. This is also a classical example of compile time polymorphism. But method overriding in case of hierarchical inheritance is dynamic method dispatch, that comes under runtime polymorphism. So this is the classical definition of polymorphism in Java. And the last biggest problem of inheritance. See, in case of inheritance, we have another inheritance which is known as multi-level inheritance. Why it is multi-level? We will have class A, we will have class B, and we will have class C. So this is your level 1, this is your level 2. So it's a multi-level inheritance. So again, if I try to implement this block diagram, then there will be one class A. It is not connected with any other class, super class. Class B is extending class A. So class B extends class A, simple. And then class C is extending class B. Class C extends class B. Fine. So here the question is, object of which class should we call? So it's very simple. Properties of A is copied over here. So here we have property of A as well as property of B. Again, property of B is copied here. property of B means this one. So here we have the property of A, B and C. So inside the main class, if we just create object of the lowermost class, then it is enough. So it is simple multi-level inheritance. But what is the trick over here? So here there is one very much interesting question, that is, what is the hierarchy of the calling when we use constructor in case of multi-level inheritance and you are not allowed to use super keyword? Try to understand. Now today's question is, we have multi-level inheritance, right? Now inside each and every class you have constructors, right? And you are not allowed to use any keyword. Any keyword means in inheritance we prefer to use super keyword. So now at this point of time, without any keyword, if you have multi-level inheritance and if you have constructors only, then what is the output order? Means output of class C will be displayed first, then class B, then class A, either this way or this way. So which is the order of output? So let me explain this one. So this is the biggest question in case of inheritance. See this one, it's a nice one. So now we are going to implement multi-level inheritance. Fine. Means say class P1 superclass, then say class P2 extends say P1, then class P3 extends P2, P2 extending P1, P3 extending P2, just like this. P1, P2 and P3. So this is the inheritance. So now after this inheritance, the logic is we have to put the constructor inside this class. Constructor name should be same as the class name. Okay. So it should be P1. I am not allowed to write anything. So I'm just writing, right? Now again inside P2, I have to define one constructor. Constructor name should be same as the class name. So this is the constructor inside P2. And inside P2, I have to define this one. And finally, inside P3, again I have to create one constructor. And constructor name should be same as the class name. And inside P3. Done. So this is superclass P1. Subclass P2 extends P1. Subclass P3 extends P2. And now we have main class M6, and according to this logic we have to create object of the lowermost class P3. This one. So we know that since we have no method, how to call a constructor? Simple. calling a constructor, constructor will be called at the time of object creation. See, this is the problem. So now the question is, so in case of multi-level inheritance, it is enough if you call or if you create the object of the lowermost subclass. Fine. Then if you do not have any method in multi-level inheritance, then the only thing you have to do, create the object of the lowermost class, and at this point of time, whenever you are writing P3 and this first brackets, then the constructor is automatically called. Now try to understand. Here the question is, what should be the output of this code? Because whenever you are calling P3 means basically you are calling this constructor. So P3 constructor will be invoked first. So the order of the output will be inside P3, then inside P2, then inside P1. I don't know. So this is the problem. So this is the most trickiest question, because if you use your logic, then I am invoking P3. P3 means this constructor. So this should come first, right? But see the output. You will be. See, P1, P2, P3. So here the answer is, since we are talking about inheritance, due to the hierarchy of the inheritance, always the super class's output will come first. This is the syntax of an inheritance, and try to understand, in case of inheritance, the outcome of the super class will come first. So this is the general rule. This hierarchy will never change because it will follow the simple block diagram. So that's why at the initial point of the class I have explained that whenever you are using the super keyword, super must be the first executable statement in the subclasses method, because we don't want to change this output pattern. Always superclass will come first, then subclass, then the next subclass. So this is the answer, and this is the trickiest question. Whenever you have multi-level inheritance and you have only default constructor or no parameterized constructor inside all the superclass and subclass, then you have only one option to create object of the lowermost subclass. And while creating the object, the constructor of the lowermost subclass will be called. But this is according to the programming law, always the outcome of the superclass will come first, then the subclass, then the next subclass. It will never change. So that's why you have to keep in mind, whenever you are doing a programming, then maintaining the hierarchical pattern in case of inheritance block diagram, means how it is appearing in your block diagram, maintaining this pattern is equally important. Is it possible to call super classes constructor without super keyword? Yes, it is only possible in case of multi level inheritance. So in single inheritance, it also happens. So let me check this one. So in case of single inheritance, let me prove this one. Say we have a superclass n, and in case of the superclass, we have one constructor n, and within this constructor, we have the simple line system.out.println. Right? And here I'm just printing inside in. And now I have to create single inheritance. So class in1 extends in. And here I will write again one constructor, right? Name of the constructor will be same as the class name inside in1. Done. Now what I will do, I will create object of the subclass only. Right? Now we will check the constructor im7 im7.java. Done. So what is the question? So is it possible to call superclasses constructor without using super keyword? So what is the answer? Yes or no? It does not depend on the inheritance, right? So the trick is whenever we have no parameterized constructor. So there will be one tricky question, that is without using super keyword, it is possible to call super classes constructor. So why we need it? Answer it. We need it to handle or call parameterized constructor of a super class.